Hello, 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 and welcome to the show today. Thank you so much for joining me. If this is your first time, hello and welcome. Today, we're going to be looking at how do you basically take the headache out of wealth creation. And I have today my lovely guest, David. He's going to share with us some strategies that we can use, to create that wealth that many of us desire. If we've not met before, my name is Gospel Edward Filia, and you know what? I am on a mission to help you grow your finances and have a positive mental health. I do that by sharing videos like the one that you're about to see, workshops and tutorials, just to help you to, get strategies and tips to help you to start leading a life that is healthier and wealthier. And if you like content like this, then stick keep watching. I'll just now introduce you to David and I'll let him, tell us more about himself. Over to you, David. Hello. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Hi, Gospel. Good afternoon, and good afternoon, everyone. And thank you for having me on the show to share a bit of experience. So, just as an introduction, name is David Agbogo. I'm a financial advisor with Double Two Financial Planning, which is an associate partner practice of St. James's Place. I've worked within financial services for the last 15 to 20 years, more around financial advising, insurance, banking. So spent a good amount of time in the industry. My typical job now is to obviously help my corporate and individual clients achieve their financial goals and objectives. So yeah, in a simple nutshell, that's what we do.
That's awesome. Thank you so much, David, for sharing that with us. And, I don't want to keep you all waiting so long, so I'm just going to get right into it and ask David some questions. First of all, David, tell us what's the role of a financial advisor?
Okay. So I'd like to look at it more as financial planning from a financial planning point of view. So our major role is to help our clients to achieve their financial objectives. So the role of every financial planner and advisor is to be on the client's agenda. As you know, every client is different, so not one size fits all in this industry, fortunately. So it's basically getting to understand your clients' financial situation, their objectives, what they're looking to achieve for themselves, their businesses, their families, and provide recommendations to help them achieve those goals. So it's mainly on the client's agenda, working with them to have a plan and structure in place to help them to achieve their goals at the different points they are in their financial journey. So that's it in a nutshell.
That's that's so insightful because one thing that I know many people do ask me, and they say, "Gospel, can you tell me what's the difference between a financial coach and a financial advisor?" And what you've said is really, really important for people to be able to know the difference, between financial. I know they use the word financial advisor or financial planner as well. But thank you for sharing that with us. So, how how can we, manage our money so that we generate wealth, we create that wealth that we so desire?
Okay, so I think one of the greatest things around financial sort of planning is one, making a decision to sort of organize yourself and having a very clear goal of what you want to achieve for yourself. And I always say this as one of the greatest things around achieving those goals. It's not all about we can advise you on what we think is the right thing to do, but one is the discipline to actually stick to it, because a lot of people know these things. Most of the things I'm going to say now are not things that people haven't heard of before. Most people have heard of most of them. In fact, at some point, some people have even started, but unfortunately, the discipline isn't there to sort of carry it through. So the typical things we usually want to start off with our clients is to we talk about budgeting, which is very important. Understanding your finances really well, your outgoings, your income, and once you're able to paint sort of a clear picture of where you are at the end of each month, then it's easier to start making allocations towards the different recommendations we can make. And I think that's one of the things a lot of people fail to get right, because they say they want to save money, but they don't even understand their monthly budgets, their outgoings, and things like that. So I think budgeting is a very key factor around there. And then also we sort of look at things like paying off high interest rates debt. People have accumulated a lot of debt around credit cards. You will find that some credit cards, the rates you're paying are quite high. So
Yeah.
if you, I've had clients who've told me about, oh, I'm investing money and
Yeah.
I'm able to get X, Y, Z amount of returns per month, but they have credit cards that they're paying double or sometimes triple the amount of returns they're making on the investment. So ideally, you want to manage your debts properly as properly as possible to help you start building towards that wealth creation we talk about. Building up emergency funds, very important. I don't think a lot of people take it that seriously, but what you have to understand is you always have to have some level of buffer at any
Mhm.
point, because if there's a, for lack of a better word, shock to the system, it usually leads to a lot of desperation at that point. People might, because they don't have sort of anything to fall back on, start thinking about taking out payday loans at extortionate rates. So it's always good to have that sort of buffer, just to make sure that if anything was to happen, you have something to fall back on. Obviously, taking advantage of obviously the reliefs that the governments give you around your pensions, using up your ISA allowances for the year, making sure you're utilizing those to the best of your advantage over a period of time is also a way to obviously create wealth over a period of time. And diversification,
Mm.
importantly, a lot of people might focus all their sort of wealth growing on one vehicle, and it's more like putting all your eggs in one basket. You never know what will happen in the future. So sometimes it's good to have a good spread of the different vehicles you're using to create that wealth. And that's some of the things we look at, trying to maximize those vehicles to the best of the client's advantage. So just those are some of the things we look at around creating wealth for our clients.
Yeah, I totally love what you just shared, because many people that start this journey to growing their wealth and creating a legacy for their family,
Yep.
they there is a lot of fear attached to it as well, and so they don't diversify their wealth strategy, and it just gets it's a lot slower than what they might have
Yep.
done if they had diversified as well. So
Yep.
those were good point. And even the budgeting one as well, and having that buffer, that emergency fund.
Yep.
Um, yeah, what would you suggest could be like, I know many people talk about having like 3 months emergency fund.
Hmm.
What do you think about that? 3 months.
I think ideally that's sort of a standard that most people in finance would say it's a good way to start. I personally think you should always keep building your sort of savings and emergency money, because it might be a situation where 3 months is enough to, if possible, in some situation, get you back to a different a different job or pay for an unforeseen expense. But what you
Mm.
want to technically create is split your income as much as possible. So it might be a situation where you have your income or the excess after paying your bills. You split that into three different categories. You might split it to I will allocate this percentage to my accessible cash savings, which is more like an emergency fund. I would allocate this to maybe holiday expenses. I'll now allocate this to investments. I'll allocate this. So it's sort of being so in control of your finances where it's more like you're in cruise control. When your
Mm.
salary comes in, when the extra comes in, you know that it's going to be allocated to all these different pots. And what that gives you is a lot of structure, because you're not just building 3 months worth of rainy day funds, you're continually building that. It could be £50 a month, it could be £20 a month, but that allocation just makes life easier over a given period of time. So I think it's more, sorry, it's more around properly allocating your excess finances to the different goals you're looking to achieve.
Yeah, totally. And the beauty of also automating this thing, so you don't have to think about it. You
Yeah,
just set it up and leave it. And but at least um having that bucket that you've said really
yeah,
helps. Just automate it, makes your life so much easy.
yeah. And
Yeah,
just to add to that, it's as I said at the beginning, it's more around the discipline to
yeah,
do it and be consistent with it. It's
that's right.
not because people can't put away £20 a month or £30 a month. It's because they've not made it a habit. Once you find that you're able to consistently do that for 6 months to a year, technically your mind doesn't go to it as my money anymore. It goes to that money's rainy day money, or that money's holiday money, or that money's XYZ's money. So technically, it's getting the habit. Once you get into the habit of it, you will find things get easier over time for yourself.
Yeah, exactly true. And I know some people that earn irregular income, they get hung up on that, say, how am I gonna be, saving or putting money aside? My income is not the same month by month. And so most of them, they use that to say they are not going to be able to do that long term, because they're not sure how much they would
Be able to.
they will earn. For those type of people, what do you normally recommend or suggest that they do?
So, what we normally say to clients is financial planning is a step by step kind of process. Most of my clients are going to be my clients in the next 10 years, 15 years. Their children are probably going to be my clients, hopefully in the future. So we understand that everyone can't start everything at the same time. So you
Yeah.
might be in a position where you don't have any money, you might be in debt, you're just paying your bills. So that at that point, your main focus is mainly, can I take care of all my debt? Can I make sure my credit cards are paid? And hopefully, as with most individuals, they're trying to improve themselves to get to better positions financially. So you might
Mm,
be in between jobs at that point. Yes, your main focus is trying to make sure you're paying and your bills, but talking to someone
yeah.
gives you something to aim at. So if you were in a position where you didn't have any money or anything like that, and you sat down with a financial planner, he would say to you, why don't you focus on this area for now? Just make sure you're paying your bills. But if you do get a job and you start earning more, then I suggest you should look at X, Y, and Z, which
Mm,
then gives you something to aim at when you start earning the extra money. So it's sort of not a situation where things have to be done immediately. We talk a lot about financial education, where people are not in the positions they are because they don't have educations on what to do. So if I educate you on what to do, when you do find yourself in a position where you can take action, then you know what to do.
yeah.
But if I don't educate you and you do get to that position, nothing changes because you don't even know what to do.
Yeah, that's so true. Having that financial education is really key. We've got a question here from one of the viewers. Says, what percentage do you recommend we invest monthly from our income?
Okay. So, looking at that question, which is a very excellent question, I think the key word there is invest. When you talk about investing, investing usually comes with some level of risk attached to it. So, you can either look at how much do you recommend we save rather than invest, because investments, as you know, is it comes with some level of risk. So if you're thinking of, oh, I want to put XYZ into an investment vehicle, yes, you usually realize that the value of that investment might go to up and down, and different
Yeah.
people have different risk appetite. So if you're looking at savings, it technically, when you start off, it is what you can afford. So I'm not going to put a figure on it and say do 50% or 10%, but start with something you know you can forget about. It might be 10%, it might be 20, it might even be 5. And I can assure you, once you get into the habit of putting a fixed percentage away, as you earn more, and you see what you've achieved, you will be motivated to do more towards that. So it's not about putting a fixed percentage into it. And so there's a difference between saving money and investing money. Saving money comes with no risk. If I put £10 away every year at the end of 12 months in my bank account, I will have £1,200 with no risk involved. If I have an interest rate on that account, I'll get a little bit on top. But if you invest that money, then what you're technically doing is saying £10 a month, I'm investing in certain vehicles, which some of them will have some risk attached to it. And the value of that investment might go up and down. So some people are not really clear on the difference of it, which then
Mm.
becomes a problem. So if you're saving, save and start with something you're comfortable with and slowly build that up.
Yeah, one of the things that I normally teach, I teach the FAB system, so financial attitudes and behavior system,
Mhm,
in which we do it step by step. If you've got debt, you get out of the debt. You know how much your living expenses is and stuff like that, and
mhm,
then you need to have gotten your starter emergency fund, which is normally about 500 to £1,000 as your starter emergency fund for oops moment. And then you get to, once you've cleared off your debt and stuff like that, you now get to now save your emergency fund, just like David said. Your emergency fund, you beef that up to how many, whatever amount of months you want. I normally recommend 3 to 6 months of your living expenses. So once you've saved all that and you're comfortable, then you can start thinking about investing and stuff like that, because you know that when oops moment happen, you're not going to fall into using other debt kind of means. And I suppose this brings me to my
mhm,
to my next question, which really has got to do with um, what are the positives and negatives of certain types of debt?
mhm. So if you look at debt, there are two different ways to look at debt. There's good debt. People categorize it into good debt and bad debts. So we'll start from the good side of debt. Debt can be used effectively to build assets, to build wealth, to improve education. So if you look at debt, for instance, a mortgage is a debt. So you are going to lend money to buy a property. But the good thing about that property is that there's a slow transfer of debt to an asset. So the more you pay off your mortgage, the property becomes an asset to you over time. And you look at the rate of lending, very few places you'd go to borrow 100,000, 200,000 at the rates. Yes, rates are a bit high now, but if you look at the rates you'd get on a mortgage, they're relatively low and you are able to spread that cost over a period of time. So that is using debt to sort of finance a future assets, which
Mm,
becomes of a lot of value to you as you go along. And then you think about things like education wise. I know there are people who aren't fans of student loans. just because of the way things are. It's like you have this weight on your neck that you have to pay for a very long period. But if you think about it, you're using debt to acquire a skill that you might not have been able to acquire if they asked you to pay that school fees or university fees up front. So that's another way of using debt to improve yourself. It could be a short-term thing. You take out a loan from a bank to finance a course that would in time lead to a salary increase. Maybe you don't have that amount of money in savings. So that's also using debt to boost things. Um, Improving your credit, taking out credit cards is a way to improve your credit because they can obviously analyze your credit worthiness on that side. As long as you're not using the credit cards and not paying it back, it's also a way to improve your credit. So those are some of the examples in business. You might be looking to purchase a business or expand your business, and you can take out loans to help you with that. So that's sort of using debts to your advantage and using it to generate more wealth and more income for yourself. And then on the other side of things, you have obviously bad debt, which is more around borrowing money to sort of do your day-to-day expenses without being able to pay it back. Yes, it's a temporary relief that you'd be able to pay for these things, but on the long run, it becomes a problem if you're not able to afford them. You will be able to, obviously, that would lead to bad credits, a lot of pressure on yourself, which you don't want. And
Yes.
the thing about bad debt in itself is it's sort of a chain reaction. So it usually starts from one thing and then goes to the other. So it usually starts for, oh, I've got an interest only option on my credit card, which is good at that point for you to use. And before you know it, you've used up such a large amount. And then maybe the interest only period comes to an end and you're not able to get another option to transfer that. So all of a sudden, slowly, you're having to pay a lot of interest on that credit card. And it could be a situation where at that point, your financial situation has changed, meaning you have to start thinking of how can I maintain paying this credit card? And then you might think I'm going to use my overdraft, which in turn brings on more. And then before you know it, you're moving into another cycle. I need to borrow money from my friends to pay this off. And it just leads to this cycle. And then you can't really control it. And that's one of the things a lot of people get into around debt. So debt is good when properly used and properly managed. I say very targeted at what you want to achieve with it. If you're going on holiday and you need to use your credit card and you know you're going to pay it off, it's not a bad thing to use because you get protection by paying with your credit card. But if you're accumulating it and you're not able to pay it back, then it could lead you into a cycle.
Hmm. Thanks for sharing that. I know this is one area in which we kind of differ
Mm,
a bit because I'm of the school of thought that there's no such thing as good debt, bad debt.
mm.
It's an oxymoron, and so debt is debt. And also, I'm one of those people that really hates student loan debt. I so hate it. I did
Yeah,
take on student loan debt, but you know what? I couldn't sleep for the amount of time I had that debt. I
yeah,
was having nightmares, man.
yeah.
So, yeah. But anyway, it's one of
Just,
I understand.
just to add to that, if you think of all the big organizations out there, the companies that have grown over a period of time, most of them are able to grow their business via debt. If you watch shows like Shark Tank, Dragon's Den, technically what they're going there to do is obviously take on, in some situation, debts because they believe in their businesses well enough to grow. So I'm of the school that maybe because I'm more inclined towards business and things like that, but you can use it effectively as a good tool to grow. But the bad thing about it is some people just take out debt because they have the option to do it. You walk into the bank and the cashier says to you, "Oh, you're eligible for a new credit card." You might not need it, but some people will just say, "I'll take it," and it's there. The temptation is there. So I think there's a two way. Some people will say to you, I think Robert Kiyosaki, the rich dad poor dad,
Yeah.
he loves debt. And then on the flip side, there are other people who think is the worst thing on earth. So yeah, there'll always be two sides to that.
Yeah, that's totally true, and that's right. I think the thing with debt, the issue that I know most of the people that are against debt is they're trying to make it. I suppose let me not say. I'll say for me anyway. Is that majority of people, not many people have that self discipline. This discipline are disciplined enough to pay off their credit card or pay off their debts and or pay off whatever loan that they've taken, and they might have overplanned or seen it, um they might not have weighed the risk enough, shall we say. So I suppose the school of thought that says debt is bad are coming at it at that point, that everybody almost like nannying everybody and saying you really do not have enough self-control to manage your debt. So there's no point you even going ahead in getting debt, because you might end up digging yourself into a deeper hole. So I suppose that's why, I know for me anyway, that's one of the reasons why I'm not going to deal with debt, because I know my lifestyle and I know stuff that can happen. And so I'm more cautious about that. And I just say no, no
So
to it.
I
And
100% accept that. And it then goes back to my initial point
yeah,
around discipline. If we are disciplined enough early in life to have a structure around budgeting, around our savings, around our planning, we would hardly get to a position where we would need to not be able to pay debt. Because if you've been saving, if you've been budgeting, if you've been allocating over time, if you
mm,
need to go on holiday, ideally your mindset would not be, I don't have money to go on holiday, but I need to go. So I need to take out a credit card to do it. Or if the car breaks down. So it's all about, it all ties in.
yeah.
Because if you are discipline is the foundation of almost everything we do. So if you're disciplined enough to start that earlier on, then you would hardly find yourself in that position when you wouldn't be able to pay. And then when
Mm,
you do get in that position, the only thing that will get you out is discipline.
yeah, yeah, that's right. Let me know in the comment section, what do you guys think about that? I would love to know in the comment section. And I think, David, you've answered this particular question that I was going to ask, which was, is it true that the rich use debt to grow their wealth, or is it true that that's what they do? I suppose maybe you've answered the question, but what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, in most situations, the bigger a company gets, the more capital companies need, and the easiest way to kind of finance that level of growth is via debt. And hence why you find most of the chief executives, you find they're so close to their bankers, because they're always speaking to their bankers, taking out loans to finance different projects. Most of them can't even finance certain projects on their own. So they would need some sort of loans to complete them and then pay back over a period of time. So if effectively managed, debt is a very good tool to grow your business and yeah, just manage things. And so yeah.
So, do you know of, have you seen any wealthy person not use debt at all to grow their wealth?
Um, I wouldn't say off the top of my head straight away. Obviously, if people are lucky enough to have come from rich families and they're cash heavy, then yeah, it might be an option. You don't have to do it, but sometimes it might even work out better and
Yeah.
cheaper for you to do it that way than to even take the money out of your account. Because if you think about, if your business is lending money just because of the limited liability structure of a company, you would rather put that level of risk on the company rather than on the individual. So when you get to that level where you're a limited company, then if you borrowed money from the bank on the limited company, then technically you're protecting yourself to a certain extent from that debt rather than individually doing it. So some people just do it because of that protection the limited company vehicle gives you. So different people take out debt for different reasons.
Mm,
It's just that over time around the world has been an effective tool used by a lot of businesses to even the government borrows money. So
mm. Yeah, that's right. That's another topic
yeah.
on its own. Um, but yeah, there is another question that I've got here that I received from those that pre-asked their questions. So
Mhm,
this one was, I am single and child-free in my 40s. I have
mhm,
a good job. Due to my disability, I work part-time. I am not on any benefits.
mhm,
I do not have any debt. I do not have any investment or savings.
mhm.
I do rent. What's the best way to plan my finances?
Okay. So that's well, very good scenario. There are a lot of people that fall into that category. So it still boils down to what we were talking about initially. One, it's understanding your finances well enough via budgeting. Do a You could do a spreadsheet. I know Microsoft Excel that there are free spreadsheets you can use. Know exactly what your income is, what your outgoings, and then on your surplus, you can start saving off money on there. With your employer, you could talk to them about your current pension contributions. Are you making enough contributions into the pension to kind of build that pension towards your retirement? Some people even opt out of their pensions for some reason. So you will need to start speaking to your employer about that, because if you think about it, if you're 40 years old, you've got a few years to work before you retire. If you haven't got any savings at the moment, then at the back of your mind, you should start thinking, when I do come to retire, how am I going to sustain my lifestyle at that point? So one is budgeting, understanding your finance properly. Two, thinking about your pension. And also you could start thinking of things like, if you haven't got income protection, which is more around ensuring your income, God forbid, if anything was to happen to you and you're unable to work. Do you have an alternative? How long does your sort of sick pay last? Some companies will give you a few months where they will pay you your full salary, some would give you less. So all these things need to be clearly highlighted in your mind so that you know, if I am unable to work because of a serious illness, I will still get paid for a decent amount of years. And I think that is basically, in your situation, those are the most important things. You need to understand your finances, know your excesses, and then you can start thinking of that split we talked about around how much I want to put towards my savings every month, how much I want to put towards rainy day fund. And depending on your attitude to risk, you might say, I want to invest and grow that over the medium to long term, and then
Mm,
maximizing your pension contributions.
yeah. We've got another question from one of the audience before.
Mhm.
How should I prioritize paying off debt if it's spread across multiple areas?
Okay. So, and going back to my days within banking, so if you look at a lot of people, like you've highlighted in the question, have multiple debts, which usually is very difficult to control. I usually say sometimes you wake up and look at your bank account and you feel like someone robbed you overnight. So it's kind of, you might have one credit card with Lloyd's, another credit card with another company. So credit cards spread all around the places. So
Yeah.
one thing, which is a vehicle which people use, is debt consolidation. It might be multiple credit cards. It might be a few loans here and there. You can actually walk into your bank and speak to them about consolidating that debt into one. because what you have to understand about credit cards is you're not just paying back the capital, you're also paying back interest on it. And if you're making just the minimum payments, it becomes more difficult to have a fixed time to pay it off. But if you were able to consolidate that all that into one debt, then you know that, okay, I have a fixed amount I pay every month. I have a certain amount of flexibility around the time frame to pay that off. And I know that by the end of that period, I will be debt free. And then also, you know that you only get hit once a month with that payment rather than
Mm.
hit different times. So that's sort of a way to make it easier for you, is speaking to your bank or your financial institution that you're with about a possible consolidation of the debt. Because what you would find is that in most cases, taking out a loan is usually cheaper than paying off multiple credit cards. So that's one of the sort of methods I'd recommend on that one.
Yeah, and just to add, there's another, well, two other methods that you can try, which is like the snowball method. The
Mhm.
snowball method, if
Paying
works.
off the smallest, and then yeah,
Sorry.
it's paying off the yeah. Go on, I know what it is, but yeah,
Yeah, so the snowball method is, you put your all your debts that you have from the smallest to the largest amount, not the interest rate or nothing like that, but the amount. You put that in order from the smallest to the largest, and then you pay the smallest one first. Be as strict as you can and pay that off, and then you move to the next one, and you move to the next one. So that's the snowball method, and then you've got the avalanche method as well. That one has got to do with the interest rate. So you put in order of the highest interest rate to the lowest interest rate. Okay,
yeah,
so those are three types that you can use. And one thing that I normally say, because um, finance is really, well, I work with personal finance, your personal finance, and it's more a behavioral and a mindset kind of a thing. So whatever suits you and it's convenient for you is the method that you should go with. You don't
yeah.
want to go with something just because somebody said it. You need to try things that really
For you,
suits your lifestyle, shall we say.
yeah,
So you might be the type of person that the high interest one suits better, and you really want to crush that, you could go and do that. You might be the type of person that likes to be motivated, and so paying off using the snowball method, knowing that you've paid off a small one, and you're like, yeah, well done me, you could go ahead with that one, even with the debt consolidation as well. If you're the type of person that prefers everything in one, and then you just know monthly you pay that, it's it's your choice. You go ahead and do whatever is convenient for you. Okay,
yeah.
I hope that answers your question.
Yes.
Right.
And just to add to that, and
Yeah.
this is one of the things I've found from experience, it does take sacrifice to kind of get yourself out of that situation. And
Yeah.
I think a lot of people have been in this situation at different points in their lives. Sacrifice around, you might even consider for a period of time getting a second job or an alternative source of income that would help you quicker, to pay off your debt quicker, and then you can get back to normal. It might be taking on a few additional shifts at work. It might be having a second job you can do on weekends or during your free time, which might bring in a small amount of money. But if that money is totally focused on paying off the debt, you will find that you will get out of that process quicker.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So I've got another question here.
Mhm,
And it says, do I need life insurance? I
mhm,
am in my late 60s, about to remarry. I will be having two bonus children when I remarry.
mhm.
I have grown up children and grandchildren. I have debts. I took on a loan when I retired. I have two mortgages, both in my name and my ex-husband's name. How do I deal with this financially? Mm.
Okay. Really interesting question there. But just to highlight some of the major reasons why life insurance is important and why people take life insurance out. One is provide financial security for long loved ones if we are not there. Paying off debts, estate planning, there are tax benefits to it, and generally peace of mind. So, if you are in your 60s at this point and you're getting married, you might think to yourself, oh, wow, I've got children, I've got grandchildren. God forbid if anything was to happen to me, I want them to obviously get something. So, insurance is also used as a method of transferring wealth between generations. So it's all about you thinking, if I wasn't here, would I want my grandchildren to get this sum of money or my children to get this sum of money to help them on their own journey in life? So that is something you can think about. Also, looking at the fact that you say you've taken on debt at later on down the line, it might be a situation where you don't want that debt to be passed on to your children to have to worry about, because in most cases with loans, personal loans and things like that, it might be a situation where the banks or whoever you've taken out the loan for comes chasing your estate for the money, which can lead to a lot of headache at that point. Considering you've also got properties, there might be a situation where you find that you are having to pay inheritance tax, or your dependents are having to pay inheritance tax, which is at 40% if anything was to happen to you. In some situations, life insurance can be used as a vehicle to help your dependents pay off that inheritance tax bill, rather than have to worry about where to find the money to take care of that bill just to settle your estate. Also, looking at your sort of situation with obviously it getting married and having two additional children coming to your family, it might be a situation you're thinking of how to allocate this money from the life insurance. So you
Mm.
can use life insurance and choose your beneficiaries. You can allocate that to who you want to get money, what percentage you want to pass on to them. So it gives you a bit of flexibility with that. So in your situation, there are a lot of things to consider that might be of value to you to take out life insurance. I know a lot of people get later on in life and think, oh, I don't really need it. But if you want your dependents to get some money, if you are thinking about inheritance tax and planning or the allocation of your estate and paying off that debt, then it might be valuable for you to consider taking out life insurance.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. Yeah, that's so true. I'm
Mhm.
conscious of the time and yeah, just looking at the time right now. But uh, if you've got any questions that you would like um, David to answer further, if you were like, I've got questions I need to ask, but I feel a bit conscious or I can't because I'm at work or something like that, you can always reach out to him and ask your questions using that link below. But just to summarize what we've talked about today, we're looking at the topic how to take the headache out of wealth creation
Mm.
based on what we've discussed here. I know David has mentioned about, I feel free to chip in here, David, when
Yeah.
you get stuck. Okay. So from what I heard was you you can increase your income by maybe getting another job or increasing maybe your work hours over time. Another way is by, making sure you've got an emergency fund, first of all, have savings, first of all, before you now start looking at investing. And because Saving is a lot safer. You don't the chances of you losing all your money is rather, well, zero. But
Hmm.
with investing, there's a high chance of you losing some of your money, right?
I'll
So
just say not a high chance. There's a possibility.
possibility, okay. I suppose. I don't know. Yeah. There's
Yes.
possibility. And and also you can use debt as a tool. So David has gone into details about that. Anything else?
I would say for me, one of the main things to kind of to create wealth, you have to have a plan. And all these things we've said kind of ties into it about having a clear plan of what you want to do. And it's quite difficult to have a plan if your knowledge is quite limited around the different options. So one advice would be to speak to someone. It might not be a financial advisor. It might be your local advisor in the bank. I know if you walk into the bank, you have customer advisors in there. Just speak to someone that has a knowledge around those areas that can give you options clearly. In the end, the decisions about what option you want to go for, falls down to you. My job is not to force you to do certain things; is to say to you, these are your options, and then you say, this is what I want to do. This is what I'm comfortable with. So once there's a clear plan on what you want to do, then there has to be the commitment to do it. Because once you have the plan, do you have the commitment to stick to what we've planned for us to do? And then you start moving slowly. And then obviously the discipline always comes into play around, are you keeping to the plan? And also, this plan is not set in stone. It can move at different points. People start planning at the stage where they're not married, they don't have children, and then children come into the mix, and then the plan changes. And then they get to another stage where they're not earning enough money, then they move to the stage where they're earning too much money. So it always changes. Hence why I say the relationship I build with my clients, it's a long-term relationship, because we will go through these changes with you and advise you as you go along. So don't be afraid to speak to someone. Always speak to someone about it. A lot of people, when they hear the term financial advisor or wealth manager, they think, oh, you have to be at a certain level before you can speak to someone, which is rarely the case. You should speak to someone. And another thing, speak to people that actually know what they're doing. I know a lot of people who would say, oh, my barber told me, or I heard my auntie said I should do this, whilst the auntie has no knowledge about what they're doing. And they've just gone off another person's information. And then all of a sudden you find you're in a position where you're worse off than you even started. So when you're getting information, make sure you're getting information from the right people, and also the people that, my industry is very regulated. Go with people who are regulated, because online, anyone could tell you to come invest this money and do this. And all of a sudden, you find that there's no regulation there. So speak to someone, have a plan, be committed and disciplined enough to achieve it. So I'd say those are sort of the major things I'll say.
Thank you so much, David, for sharing that. And you know what? One thing that I've learned over the years is the difference between, let's suppose, a financial coach and a financial advisor or planner. Financial coach, they educate you. Their focus is educating you, helping you to make decisions that so that you can master your wealth. I see it almost like this. So, a financial coach will help you to get and stay financially healthy, and a financial advisor will help you to get and stay financially wealthy. So, wherever you are at your stage in life, you can then choose which one you want to go with. I know, like David said, be careful with the information you get out there. There are loads of people that are financial gurus that really are not right. They're rather not helpful for you, and you'll find many people get burnt. We don't want you to get burnt. What we want is for you to grow your wealth, to leave a legacy for your children and your children's children. And, one way that you can do that is to seek information, seek sound wisdom from
Yeah.
professionals. For example, somebody like David. Thank you so much, Elizabeth, for sharing here. That's good advice. Speak to someone about planning. Yeah. Whatever stage you are at, speak to somebody about how you can, you know, achieve your financial goal. I am so grateful to David for taking the time to share with us his
No
wisdom.
problem. Very, very, very happy to do that anytime. And hopefully, obviously, a lot of people take a lot of this and start implementing it in their lives. And I will say this: it's definitely not easy. We've looked, obviously, cost of living and all the things that have been going on around the world. It's definitely not easy. I know sometimes people say this, and it seems like, oh, just do it. It does take a lot of sacrifice to get to certain positions, but once you get there, you will find that it's worth it, and you will then get into that point of I keep using cruise control because it does get easier if you're saving with a £1,500 salary. You will
Yeah,
do better with a £2,000 salary. You do better with a £3,000 salary, just because it's a habit you've created over time. And then you will see how, I wouldn't say easy, but how quickly things can build up and you can live the life you want to live. And I think I mentioned it at some point that wealth is different to everyone. To someone, wealth might be having 50,000. So another person, it might be 500,000. To the next person, it might be 1 million. Some people, it's just being debt free and being able to pay their bills. So it is different for everyone. Everyone's goal is different. And it's just having your mindset, the goals you want to achieve, and slowly getting to that stage where you can achieve them.
great. Thank you so much. And thank you as well, Lola, for that. She says, great advice. Thank you, David. Yes, we're so grateful to you. So, thank you, everybody, for joining us today. It has been a privilege sharing with you the wisdom of David. And I'm so grateful for everybody that contributed and asked loads of questions. All the thank yous that are coming through. Thank you. And I wish you guys ongoing success. Remember, one thing I like to say is just remember that you're unique. There's only one you out here in the street. And if achieving financial freedom is one of your goals, to be able to go out there and share your unique self, then start step by step. Start doing it right now. Until next time, to your ongoing success. You take care. Bye.
Thank you very much.